think we could all use some like social media boundaries, whether it's business, personal, like it doesn't even matter.
You are listening to Come As You Are, the podcast. My name is Tyler, and I am joined by my two friends, Amanda and Stephanie. Together, we are a trio of coaches coming together to explore life's biggest topics. Each episode, we hold true to our name, Come As You Are, by showing up and just hitting record. Whatever we bring to the table that week is what we talk about. No scripts, no planning, just real and raw conversations. Our mission is to create a space where vulnerability and authenticity take center stage, and we believe in the power of deep conversations and soulful connections. So welcome to the show. We are so happy that you are here, and we now invite you to just sit back, relax, and enjoy today's conversation.
Actually, Tyler and Amanda went through quite some technical issues over the last few weeks, and they will share a little more about it in a minute. And we thought, you know what, before we share any of this, before we go into this and do this coach style, we just hit record and see what happens and how we are dealing with those kinds of challenges. Because whether it is technical difficulties or difficulties in a relationship or with your finances or in whatever area of your life, I think the way you do one thing is the way you handle all of the other areas as well. And so I'm just so curious to ask the both of you, okay, so you were faced with those challenges, and again, you can just summarize for us what they were, and then how are you approaching this now? And also how you're bringing this into the space here and how we're going to approach this together. And this is why I mentioned this, like, how are we handling this coach style? And I'm just so curious to know. And I'm actually excited about it to see, okay, what do we do with challenges? Because not everyone is like, oh yeah, a challenge, right? So I'm curious, maybe Amanda, do you want to start with your story?
Yeah, so oh my gosh. Quite the story. Basically, long story short, my computer crashed. It just one day decided that it wasn't going to work anymore. And like all the things that I had on the computer, I mean, I'll own it. It was my fault. I didn't back it up. But I thought, I have a terabyte of storage on my computer. Like that is more than I could even imagine filling. And so I didn't back it up. I'm like, it's there. It's fine. And then one day it was gone. And I was not expecting it. I don't even like, I can't even begin to like, in that moment, I got on the phone and with the tech support and I'm like, please like help me. And I was so determined to make it work. Like they gave me the steps, like, okay, do this, do that. It wasn't working. I'm like, no, please, like, don't hang up. Like, can we just try one more time? She's like, it's not working. I'm like, no, please, like, just give it one more try. And like, so she was like entertaining me and she tried it one more time. It still didn't work. So I ended up having to bring the computer in and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I actually for a second couldn't even remember what I even had on the computer. I knew it was a lot of stuff, but I just couldn't remember even what it was. And like business documents, those kind of things, like I was like, okay, I can recreate those things. But then when it came to like pictures, like baby pictures and like, just those memories that we have that we store on the computer. And like they were all gone. And I thought maybe there was a chance that I could save them and I would open my computer when I got it back and it was fixed, but surprise, they'd all be there. Well, I have the new computer back and they're not there. But I can laugh about it. And I think like in coach fashion, how I'm looking at this is like, first, back it up. That's my lesson learned from that. And second, like really with the pictures is like, I think we keep, like we all have pictures. Like I need even my phone. Like I have thousands, like tens of thousands of pictures on my phone. And it's very rare that I actually like look at all of them ever again. But there are times when like I have these like reflective moments where I have certain folders and I want to like go back and like just take a walk down memory lane. But what I really came to was the fact that like if I have all these pictures, right? Like it's great to have them, but they're just memories. They're just a snapshot of me in that moment. And more than likely, I'm probably like smiling because in every picture, I'm like, geez, like I just always like are smiling. And so, like, is that really an authentic moment? Like, is that really, am I really in that present moment? Do you know what I mean? Like, I could have a picture of it, I could have a snapshot, a capture, like, of that, like, just briefly, but am I really present in that moment? Like, and so since then, that's kind of like in every moment what I've been doing. I'm like checking in with myself, like, okay, like, am I fully present here? Like, is this really like, am I really here now? Or is it just like a snapshot that I'm going to look back at and be like, oh yeah, I remember that thing. And I think this comes especially in like having kids, because like they grow so fast and each moment goes by so quickly. And if we're not in each present moment, then it kind of does just like fly by. So yeah, that's kind of like a bit long-winded, but like overall, like what I've been enjoying with technology. The lessons learned from technology.
I love your positivity, because I was not so positive, I'll be honest. Like, so my technology freak out moment was my Facebook and my Instagram accounts. They got hacked and shut down, like completely shut down. I was locked out of my accounts. I couldn't log in. The hackers had like stole my passwords. Like, I mean, it was a really stressful moment, like when I was in it, um because I work online. Like, part of my job is I have to manage a Facebook group, and like, so like like there's an identity that we have online. Like Amanda was sharing, like in the photos, like we have like a lot of who we are attached to these places, whether they be pictures or whether they be your Facebook memories, your Instagram posts. Like, we all have some sort of identity that we've formed in this online digital space. And as I think Amanda and I are great examples of like what, like, it can instantly go away. Like, in like 10 seconds, my Facebook account was locked, my Instagram account was locked. Like, if you, like, I had my sister try to find me on Facebook and I wasn't there. I was like gone, deleted, like non-existent. And so, I think there's a fragility in this online present, this online persona that we are all trying to curate, and we're all trying to kind of become. And in an instant, it can be gone. And so, like, Amanda was saying, like, I was locked out of Facebook for 2 weeks, and I was nuts the entire 2 weeks. I was like, I realized, one, how addicted I am to those platforms. Like, I didn't have anything to scroll. I didn't have like any sort of escapism, because that's what a lot of like Instagram is for me, is like I get on there and I scroll and I escape, and it's, a nice block of reality. And it's robbing you of your presence. It's robbing you of like being connected to yourself in the everyday moments of life. And it really taught me, I think it really taught me a lot about our like reliance on social media, on technology to escape, you know? And I think as coaches, we try to do a really good job of like being present, being in the moment, but we are also humans. And so we like also find ourselves escaping, and we find ourselves like not practicing what we preach. Like, let's be honest, I actually had this conversation at work with some colleagues, and we're all coaches, and the question was like, what is the one thing that we tell our clients to do that we don't actually do ourselves? You know? And one of those things is like, I'm all for unplugging from social media, but here I was unplugged for 2 weeks, like completely a ball of anxiety because I was like, oh my God, I'm disconnected. I've lost all of my memories, all of my photos, all of my friends. And like it's so strange too, because one thing that I realized was I have made so many digital friends. Like you two are digital friends. We have never met in person, in real life. It's only been through Zoom, you know? But I consider you two to be really close friends because technology has allowed us a space to like grow and connect in a way that, I mean, 10 years ago, like we wouldn't even think this was possible, 10, 15 years ago, this was like a dream. And so, the like our reliance on technology, to me, after this event, made me realize just how severe we are like addicted to technology, and how is that impacting life? Like as a life coach, that's what I think about. Like, how does it actually take away from real life? And so I want to ask that question. Like, what do you guys think? What do you think are the implications of technology? I don't know if I said that word right, but what is like the impact of technology, and how is it robbing us of real life?
So thank you, both of you, for sharing your stories. First of all, it's so interesting that both of you had those technical challenges at the same time. And even though at the surface they were really different scenarios, but they were very much aligned in what actually happened. You had pictures, you had contacts, you had virtual stuff taken away from you. And then by that have been taken away, you realize, wow, this is almost like part of my identity. But is it really? Do I really need that? Right? Because they're, like you mentioned, Tyler, so beautifully saying that, it's so amazing that social media enables us to make friends, for example, but then also it kind of sucks us into the algorithm and makes us feel really miserable because we're addicted to coming back and scrolling and stuff like this, which takes us right out of reality, right, of experiencing the here and now and the presence. And coming back to your question now, I can only highly encourage people to watch the Netflix documentary, The Social Media Dilemma, where I feel this is summarized so perfectly, if you have not seen, for anyone who is watching or listening to this, if you have not seen it, go watch it. It's a lot of people who have been involved in developing those algorithms for Facebook, working for Google in really high positions, and they kind of escaped that world. They quit that world and were sharing in those interviews really what is going on behind the scenes. And first of all, I think we need to say as coaches that those algorithms, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, are not meant for us to be happy, to feel good, to have better lives at all, ever. Like if you want a better life, then you should definitely delete those social media apps, because they're designed in a way that they make money. And the way that those apps make money is by very slowly but steadily, almost like brainwashing you. I know that's a very sensitive word. It's like it's changing your behavior very, very slowly in a way that it constantly confronts you with content. And when you are confronted with content over and over again, that changes something in your brain. And so this is how they make money, right? It's not just, oh, there's an ad here and something there, but they're slowly but steadily with those algorithms changing your behavior, changing the way you think. And this is then how companies can kind of like penetrate you to buy their products or to have you adapt certain behaviors so that you buy their products eventually, or do things that will benefit them, and they don't care about your mental health. Actually, it has been proven by so many studies by now that those social media apps are actually damaging more than adding to any kind of mental health, no matter how many contacts you have there. And so I think it comes down to being really mindful of the usage of it. So I've done this also last year, where I had like 2 times, I had like 6 or 8 weeks where I deleted or deinstalled my Instagram and lots of other social media apps. And so I was just not tempted to just in those moments, you don't even think about things, but then you're, talking about this escapism, you just, before you know it, you grabbed your phone and you're like scrolling through Instagram, and it's half an hour later and like, wait a minute, I just wanted to pick up my phone and check my bank account or something. And all of a sudden, you don't even know how you did it, right? And so in order not to do that, I just deinstalled them all. And every time I feel like, wow, I feel so much better. It's weird the first few days or so, but then it's like, I feel so much better. And this is why I want to just segue into like one of my favorite topics, which is setting boundaries. That we all need those boundaries. We all need those limits to say, okay, am I still in charge here? Am I still the one that runs my days, where I can consciously decide, yes, I can, allocate 15 minutes and just, have some fun and look at some cute puppy pictures on Instagram, and be a bit mindless? Or is it really like, it's the first thing I do in the morning and the last thing I do at night, and it's exhausting me mentally, right? And I think here it's a great practice if you look at your boundaries, if you look at setting boundaries for yourself, or even going on those like social media breaks, so that you are aware of how much it really is sucking you in, because you don't even notice, right? It's like leaking and you don't even notice that it's happening.
There was like so much gold in what you just said. And it makes me think too, like, as coaches, because, we all are kind of dependent on social media for, connecting with a wider audience and advertising and things like that. It's like, how do you set your boundaries as a coach, and how do you set your boundaries in terms of how you interact on social media? Because it's really easy. I work with clients on a daily basis who are kind of confronted with these challenges, and I have my own thoughts of like how we set those boundaries, but it's really easy to get sucked in. It's really easy to, like you said, Stephanie, you pick up your phone, you're going to go check your bank account, and then all of a sudden you're on Instagram and you're scrolling, and it's like 35 minutes later and you're like, where did time go, and like what happened here? Like, how do you set your boundaries for social media as a coach who uses it for your business? Like, I don't know, I know Amanda uses it a lot for her business. So Amanda, how do you set those boundaries?
My goodness, guys. This is a big one. And I think we could all use some like social media boundaries, whether it's business, personal, like it doesn't even matter. Because for me, like I have very strict boundaries around social media, because quite honestly, if it wasn't for my business, I probably wouldn't even participate on social media. I'm like not a huge fan because of this exact reason. Like I see way too many people like similar to you, Stephanie, in this like, deinstalling. I don't go that far to deinstall. I just like mute my apps. But for like a certain amount of time, like I call this like a social media detox. And like I do this periodically to sort of like, we do these body detoxes, but like social media is part of it too. Like our environment is part of it. So I'll take like a social media detox, and for an extended period of time, I'm not on social media. But on a regular basis, like I have strict, like in the morning, I won't go on before this time. In the evening, I won't go on after this time. I even have like an app that pops up. It's like, oh, you've been on social media for 15 minutes or 30 minutes. Like, and so it'll pop up to like, let me know, oh, wait, okay, am I here for what I was like intending to, or am I getting lost in the scroll? Because it's super easy to like to do that. And I think especially for me, because as a coach, I think that we are examples for our clients, and I really want to be the best example for my clients, and especially because a lot of them are teens and young adults, and for them I think we can all like appreciate this, like, oh my gosh, if they put their phones away, then their life, like they're gonna die, like their life's gonna be over, like this is so common, right? And so showing them that even as a business person, I can still shut off my technology and I'm still okay, that they're able to see that. Like even for me, like Sundays is like, that is a no-go on social media. I don't care what it is. Doesn't matter. I occasionally might check an email, but most of the time, no, like you're not going to hear from me on a Sunday. I'm in the moment, I'm spending time with my family. And I think by doing those things, it makes me so much more aware of people using technology. Like when I'm out somewhere and like I'm going to dinner with friends and we're sitting and then everyone's got their phone pulled out. I'm like, if I'm out with my friends, my phone is in my bag and I'm not looking at it. I'm here to be with them. Or you go to like Starbucks, you're ordering your coffee or whatever drink, and you see like in the lineup, 90% of the people on their phones. And so I think when you start to step back from technology and be more mindful and aware of how often you are connected to it, then suddenly you start seeing all these other things that's like, oh, yeah, we are on our technology a lot more. And one other thing that I'll add here, that because I love this, I had a client, and with their friends, they had this agreement that when they go out to dinner, like a group, everyone puts their phones in the middle of the table. And the first person to grab their phone has to pay the whole bill. I'm like, that is like amazing. I love this idea. And I feel like that, like, it just makes sense. Like it just, the phones remove us, the technology takes us so far away, like it removes us so much from being in the moment. And this is the life, like this is what it's about. Like I could go on for ages on this one, but I'll leave it at that, because I think that like it really stresses the importance of us having boundaries with technology, and that having those boundaries actually allows you to enjoy your life. In my opinion. I'll add that just in case. No way I couldn't live my life without technology.
Well, I mean, truthfully, now I don't think we can live life without technology. Like I do think there is a reliance on it. Like, I mean, we operate businesses using technology, you know? I mean, so there is a codependency on technology, but I think what Amanda was speaking about and what's so kind of profound is the intentionality behind it. It's like, how are we using social media? You know, I mean, if you're using it as a business owner to promote your business, to connect with customers, to, you know, grow, like all very positive things. But it's when you kind of cross that line and you kind of become like sucked into it, and it really does start to drain your life. And like, you know, I love everything that you and Stephanie have been sharing about, like, you know, setting the boundaries. I wrote the social media detox down because one of my this was something that I thought about years ago. When I first started coaching, I said one day I want to lead an entirely like social, like an entirely like phone free retreat where like you are completely unplugged, because there is something about unplugging, whether it be completely like uninstalling apps on your phone for a weekend and like not checking your phone, or setting the boundaries of like, this is my time, this is when I'm allowed to check social media, this is when I'm allowed not. Like there's something that aligns you, that reconnects you when you do that. And like, I've always had these dreams of like hosting technology free retreats for entrepreneurs, because I think as entrepreneurs now in our modern day time, we are so consumed by the technology. We are so consumed in our computer screens and our phone screens and our iPads and everything like that, that we're missing out on the beauty of like life, And I love that idea of also like the phones on the table, and like I would never touch my phone if I thought I was going to have to pay for a whole dinner, especially if it was a big group. I'd be like, nope, that phone can sit there until I leave the restaurant. Like, and I think what we're all smiling here, but I think you can make it fun. Like, I think that's a really valid thing, is like, what are some games that you can invent to make unplugging fun? Like it doesn't, I think a lot of times we think, oh my gosh, this is like a chore, like I have to turn off social media, but like it can actually be fun. You can play the games, you can do your own social media detox and like have fun with it. And like, again, I think it does come back to just intentionality. Like, what is your intention, and is it in alignment with your goals?
I have a really hard time right now not picking this up and talking about this for 5 hours, seriously, because there's so much to this, right? I mean, my ideas are just like flying out of my head, and like the thoughts I'm having to what both of you are saying. And I'm like, oh, where do I take this now? But I just want to grab on this concept and just reiterate once again that I think nowadays we are deeming social media as this like bad thing, right? And it does come back to, and it does comes down to, okay, what are you using it for? What is your purpose for going on social media? And when we talk about social media detoxing and stuff like this, it means that you're probably using social media to escape your unpleasant reality. So yes, you can try and make it fun to not escape so constantly, because essentially it's a habit, right? Most of what we do every day is habit. And so grabbing your phone in this like mindless autopilot moment is just a habit. That you are on the screen for an hour before you fall asleep is just a habit. And so changing that habit, that's not difficult. But then you want to ask yourself, and that's the cure for, that's the solution to anything, is like, where's that habit coming from? Why are you doing it? What's the reason? And you will soon find that it's probably because you find your own life in this moment a bit uncomfortable. And there must be reason for wanting to escape this all the time, right? There's maybe you are bored and that's why you're grabbing your phone. Maybe you're bored and that's why you are eating. Maybe you're bored and that's why you are drinking, right? Like all those addictions that we're having is essentially because we want to escape those unpleasant emotions that we're having. And then the solution is not to look at, okay, how can I make the escape? How can I not escape so much? But rather, how do I create a life where I don't have to escape the emotions, but rather I'm able to deal with them and just be bored. Like, you're not going to die when you're bored for 5 minutes. It just feels like it. And the world today gives us so many great escapes. It's like there are all those companies, they can't wait to get a hold of you and give you like, oh, here, you can escape like this and you can escape like that. And you don't have to feel uncomfortable. You don't have to feel lonely. We have this and we have that, right? And we are like so over flooded with all those distractions. And just like what Tyler was saying, that you have to come back to the you. Who are you? What are you feeling? And this is, yes, the hardest journey ever, but this is the journey that we have chosen as coaches. If you're a fellow coach, you know what we are talking about. And if you like to be, you're like, yes, that's what I want too, right? I want to be more mindful. I want to be more reflective. And yes, this is obviously, I mean, this is why I mentioned before, we could talk about this for like 5 hours straight, because this is like so spot on what we do as coaches. And so that's what I wanted to get at, is like social media nowadays, for most people, it's escape. And this is why we deem it as this like bad thing. But of course, there's a difference between using it for example, really just talking to friends, finding friends virtually, or whatever Facebook or Instagram was initially, done for. Maybe you were a photographer and you post your pictures on Instagram or whatever, versus using it to just mindlessly scroll and escape whatever you're wanting to escape. So definitely two very different experiences. Yeah, this is just what I wanted to point out again. And I know this is really, really juicy, but I know we have, I think we're coming to an end here for today. So I just would love to hear from both of you, Amanda and Tyler, once again, how this whole experience with your technical challenges that you had over the last few weeks is tying into this. Okay, what am I doing on a day-to-day basis? And you've mentioned it already a little bit, but maybe you want to give us your major like aha from all of this like, okay, wow, this has taught me something. Maybe you know the lesson. Maybe sometimes I know the lesson comes later when we go through something like this, but maybe you know it already and you want to share.
Well, I think for me, it's really been a huge reminder of like being mindful, being in the present moment. Like I love this distinction that you made between I think we've really painted that picture of like technology in a mindful way and technology in a mindless way, like there's a completely different approach. And so I think for me, like approaching not only just my technology use, but like life in general in a more mindful way of like, yeah, am I present in this moment? Like, am I really like enjoying the moment? And I think that helps like in like what we're saying and avoiding this like mindless use of technology instead of trying to escape. It's like, I'm just enjoying my life. I'm like happy, I'm joyful, like I'm enjoying all the things that I'm doing now. And like in this conversation, I'm like, I feel called to like, I have to point out the irony of like the fact that we're doing this on technology and we all met through social media. I think that perfectly illustrates this, like the pros and the cons, right? Like there is a positive, like not all technology use or social media like is negative. There is a pro side. It's just that like, okay, is it mindful or is it mindless? I think would be my overall like conclusion or final thoughts on today's I mean, never ending could be discussion.
Well, I think it's I like that mindful or mindless thought. And as Stephanie was talking just a minute ago, like I wrote down overstimulation as like one of these words. And I think right now we live in a world that is super overstimulated, like you know, with social media, with all of the products being pushed in our faces and all of the, I mean, I was just thinking the other day, like I can't even watch TV anymore without being on my phone, like I caught myself the other day scrolling social media while I was watching TV. Like how much stimulation do we actually need? I think right now we are kind of in this space of overstimulation. And so when I got locked out of Facebook and Instagram, one, I think it made me uncomfortable because I had to sit in silence for a little while. I had to it was like a forced detox. Like I wasn't planning on doing a social media detox. I was forced into it, and it made me uncomfortable. It made me actually face some things of like, oh, I use it for this and this, and like, you know, and that might be some of the things, if you choose to ever do your own social media detox, which I hope everybody does at some point in their lives. Like, you're gonna sit in silence, you're gonna sit in boredom, you're gonna sit in a not so stimulating environment. I think that's okay. Like, I think right now, like, we use social media so often to escape and to feel stimulated and to feel excited, but it's like my question for you, which we don't have to answer this because we're ending it, but think about this. Like, how do you escape real life? You know, for me, I daydream. I allow myself to journal, to meditate, to go, you know, to think about, you know, my future endeavors, to think about, you know, future life. And there's an intentionality behind that. So again, my word for today, my takeaway from all of this and from my experience is like, be more intentional with your social media use. It's not we don't need to demonize social media. It really is a good thing. I think there are some positive things that have come from social media. Our connection, the three of us, like, that's a really positive thing. But it's, I think, being intentional on how you use it and being okay with like unplugging and being bored for a little while, because boredom is not bad, you know, like silence is not bad. It's actually a really beautiful gift when you allow yourself to sit there in the silence.
Thank you. That's so beautiful. And I just want to also add here that it doesn't have to be a big shift overall, right? You don't have to go from like being on social media 2 hours a day straight to like, okay, now I'm going to do a social media detox for 2 weeks, right? You can start small. You can, like Amanda shared earlier, you can set like a boundary and say, okay, after 10 p.m., no more scrolling on Instagram or something like this. Or in the morning, I will first get up, brush my teeth, make my breakfast, and then grab my phone or something like this, right? It doesn't have to be like from 100 to 0. You can adjust something here and there, and that will be so much easier than going like cold turkey right away, basically. So thank you so much for everyone who was listening or watching this. If you had any like nuggets in there where you felt like, gosh, this is such a cool topic and I would love for them to elaborate a bit more on this, or you touched on this, can you share more on that? Then please feel free to leave it anywhere here in the comments or message us somehow wherever you're seeing this. And we'd be happy to dive into this in any of our future episodes as well. So we will say goodbye for today. Thank you for listening and watching, and we will catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to Come As You Are, the podcast. You can follow the show on Instagram at Kaya the Podcast and on YouTube and Facebook by searching Kaya the Podcast. If you haven't already done so, please help us keep the conversations going by subscribing, rating, reviewing, and sharing this podcast. And be sure to join us next time for another deep conversation.